But it was the hardest job I've ever had. I cried in my car a lot. I have nowhere to go. So I did a Google search for like how to find your purpose. and
If you could do it all over again, would there be anything that you would change or do differently?
I wouldn't quit.
Welcome to the Founder's Hustle, where every business has a backstory worth telling. Today, I'm joined with Cecily North-Rudow, founder of Travel North Agency, whose journey has taken her from archives and library work to building a travel business, raising a family, and even launching a podcast to help other travel advisors. So welcome to the show. How are you doing this morning?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad to talk to you. I cannot wait to hear your backstory because to go from the library business and then to throw in some travel agency work on top of it, I just want to know, like, how in the heck did this all come about?
So I will say I'm still in the library world. So I have two full-time jobs. But at the time, so my background is in archives, special collections, essentially. And I was in a position where I knew I wasn't going to get promoted. I wasn't going anywhere. And so I applied for a job as the executive assistant to the director and got that job and spent 3 years doing that. So I was booking travel for him. I was booking travel for our admin team, and then of course booking my own travel. But it was the hardest job I've ever had. I cried in my car a lot. And so my husband at the time had been given a new job offer. So we were going to be moving pretty far away. So I wasn't going to be keeping that job. But I had nowhere to go. I had been applying for jobs, had been rejected for job after job after job. And I was like, what am I going to do? I can't keep doing what I'm doing. I don't want to be here anymore. I have nowhere to go. So I did a Google search for like how to find your purpose. and the question that really stuck with me was if money, time, anything were not a problem, like what would you do all day? And my first reaction was drive because I really like road trips.
Oh,
And that very quickly turned into like, oh, well, I've been doing all of this travel booking. Maybe I should get paid to do that. So that's how it all started.
all started with a Google search, how to
Yep.
find my purpose. I love that. But what's most intriguing, though, is the fact that you didn't resolve to just moving and not having a job and being settled with that. Like, you obviously are a go-getter. You search for your purpose via Google, but you found it and you're starting to work on something that's extraordinary. So tell me about how you broke into the travel business. You've had a little bit of experience booking, but not from the business side, running your own business. Share with us, like, how did that even begin?
So of course the librarian in me was like, I'm going to check out a book from the library about it. And so it wasn't quite like Travel Agents for Dummies, but it was kind of along those lines. And so it really suggested like, if you're going to start doing this, you should really find a host agency, which is basically like a corporate office that helps you with training. It helps exposing you to suppliers, and kind of is like your back office for all of these things. And so within that book, I found my host agency, which is Dugan's Travels. I've been with them for almost 12 years now. They're very, very small. I think there's 300 of us agents. But the reason why I picked them because they were very much into supporting new agents, educating them, helping them build their own business. We're independent contractors, so my business is my business. And they were just really, really supportive. And so that was really what, again, just reading, picking up a book at the library, that led me to all of this amazing journey that I've now been on. But yeah, it wasn't all super easy. It wasn't like I thought I was going to be super successful overnight. That did not happen at all.
So tell me about your first client. How did you get the first client and what did that look like marketing wise?
Yeah, so my first client was actually my sister-in-law at the time. She was getting married. She married an Irishman, and they got married in Ireland, and they wanted to honeymoon in Iceland. And so I helped book a couple hotels for them, which I did screw up because I was given the wrong dates and then it was like a non-refundable booking, which I didn't know about. And so, so it was great because it was family. So when they got there, they got there a day early, and then the front desk was like, well, you have these two bookings, like, what are you doing? And so the hotel was actually very nice. And I was like, it's all been paid for. Like I'm gonna pay, like I took care of it on my own because it was my mistake with the dates. But yeah, thankfully it was family for the first one.
Right, right. So what did you do to market yourself to continue getting business?
So I didn't for the longest time. I really was just like, I'm just going to tell friends and family that this is what I'm doing now, and that's going to work. And everyone, they're going to tell all their friends, and that's how I'm going to do it. And then after 2 years of trying and no business, aside from family and friends, I ended up quitting for a while. But now, since then, I understand marketing a lot better and networking and all of those things. So that's really what's helped me take off since then.
So give me one of your most favorite and successful marketing tactics that you like.
Yeah, so my favorite one, so we have a local newsletter here in my town that's been around for 30 something years. She started in print and now it's all digital. And her rates are what she would want to pay for advertising. So they're really, really reasonable. And so it's digital, so she can have as many pages as she wants. And so she lets me write an article every month about whatever's happening in travel. And everything's like backlinked to my website. And now I've gotten several clients out of that for a really low amount of money. And being able to have an article where I'm showing my expertise every month, that's been huge as well. So that one for sure was really surprising to me because it was such a low investment, but I've gotten a lot of clients out of that.
Interesting, interesting. And they always say content is king. I'm in the marketing world myself, and it's content, content, content. People, you started this whole journey by Googling how to find my purpose, and somebody's writing that content that leads you to the pot of gold, if you will. But interesting. Okay. So, and you clearly had a few stumbles along the way as you've started to learn. What has been the biggest aha moment in your journey to date you've been doing this now for what, 10 plus years. So you've
Yeah.
done it, but what's been your biggest aha moment that took you from this has been difficult to I get it.
I think a lot of it was investing in the professional development. I'm just a huge proponent of just educating yourself in whatever that means, whether it's doing a course or attending a conference or getting a certification. For me, it's really just knowing that I have all of these tools available to me for completely free is astounding. Because every supplier has a training, they've got a certification. We have a business development manager we can talk to. So really realizing how many tools I have out there that I can rely on when I have a problem or I have a question. That was really when I was like, oh, I have all of these resources that I can rely on. It doesn't have to be me figuring it out every single time. I have a whole network of agents. I have a whole network of suppliers I can reach out to and be like, hey, I just got this request. How have you dealt with that? Or I'm having this problem. Who should I talk to? I think that was the biggest thing for me of like, I don't have to do all of this on my own.
Yeah, interesting. That seems to be a common theme. A lot of the entrepreneurs that I'm speaking with, almost everyone has talked about finding a mentor or finding a group and not just trying to do it yourself, if you will. So that's fantastic to hear. What lessons have you learned along the way that you would pass on to somebody who's even thinking about starting a business?
Um, that not everyone is going to be a good client or a good fit or is not good for your business. It's taken me a really long time to be okay when people ghost me or if people just are kind of either not interested in my services or maybe I start working with them and then I'm very quickly like, oh, we are not a good fit. And being okay with that and not taking it as personally as I would have 10 years ago. Because in the beginning, you're like, I want all the business. I want to work with everybody. And then you very quickly realize like, oh, no, I don't really want to work with everyone. And so really, it was really pushed on us like, find your niche, find your people, like find your interests. And it took me a really, really long time to accept my niche and that I had one because I was like, I do everything. But it is like, I don't necessarily want to work with everyone and I don't necessarily want everyone as a client. And so that's been a really, really hard lesson to be okay with 10 years on of
Yeah.
like, no, it's okay for them to find someone else.
That is fantastic advice. There's a book out there I remember reading early in my career. It was, oh my goodness, I think it was called Cut the Fat. And it was
Mhm.
just that, the whole 80-20% rule of um, if the client doesn't serve you, if they're taking your energy and being negative and they're only giving you this much business, fire them, cut the
Yep.
fat, fire them.
Yep.
So, okay. And then you just talked about learning to discover your niche and not trying to serve everybody. So, what is your niche?
So mine is highly customized itineraries. So it's not, I don't do a lot of group. I mean, I love groups, but I don't do a lot of group travel. I don't do a lot of cruises or all inclusives. It is very much, like a lot of multi-week trips, mostly Europe, sometimes Asia, Australia, but it's, helping people coordinate a lot of self-driving, or maybe they're taking the train. I had one group of 14 for a graduation trip that did 4 countries in 2 weeks. And so they literally did planes, trains, and automobiles. Like they did everything to get to all of these different places. And so that's really what I focus on now is just people that want to see, they're doing these bucket list trips. They're doing these celebration travel type things where it's graduations, birthdays, wedding anniversaries, things like that. And just helping them plan that full itinerary so that they can explore on their own without maybe having to be with, on the tour buses and all of that stuff. So yeah, that's really what I've fallen into.
That is excellent. So, have you found that with that niche of just like very complex itineraries, have you generated a lot of word of mouth? Because I would feel like if I just did a 2 week 4 country trip, I'd be telling everybody like go to her. But is that
Yeah,
okay?
absolutely. And it's I've gotten a lot of referrals out of that group. And then also I've had a lot of people that hear about it because now that I'm marketing and I can use those types of itineraries for my marketing. A lot of people are like, oh, that sounds really fun. I want to do something like that. And so, and then that starts, even more referrals and things like that. So, yeah, those people have all been really good clients since then because it was a lot of work.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of work. So where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, is this going to possibly become your full-time career, or do you see yourself having to juggle?
Yeah, I mean, my daughter's 4, and so I keep joking, like, I've got, a good 15, 20 more years till I can retire. And it's, I've worked really hard for my library career, so I just am not at the point of being able to let go of that unless suddenly things just explode and I'm just overwhelmed, and then I would be willing to make the jump, but it's very hard right now to see making that jump, but I would love for my business to double or triple in revenue and all of those things in the next 5 years, and have the podcast take off and all of those things. But also I know that I have kind of this backup plan.
Yeah, yeah.
But it is hard now with a little one to just be like, I can't see myself just like making the leap because insurance and things like that is nice to have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, this is great. So, okay, you just mentioned your podcast. Let's talk about that for a second. So, you have a full-time job. You've got a travel agency that you run on the side with excruciatingly detailed itineraries. You have a 4-year-old and a podcast. Like, how do you do it all? But really, tell me about the podcast because I liked it because, again, going back to you being a librarian, you enjoying education, this podcast is about educating and helping develop other travel agents. But share with us a bit about it.
Yeah. So the podcast came about 6 months ago or so now. I actually hired a business coach at the end of last year because I was like, I know I'm at this point in my business where I could really start making some moves, but I need some help, some focus, someone to keep me accountable for all the things I say I'm going to do. And one of the things was I really wanted to be on the team of my host agency because I adore the team. I really want to help them in any way I can. And we've really seen an influx of new agents, and I'm very passionate about welcoming people and just welcoming them to the industry and the host agency and all of those things. And so she and I were talking about it, and we crafted a letter or an email to them saying, hey, this is kind of what I'm thinking. I'd love to be like more involved. And it wasn't like a hard pass, but it was like, we love you and we know that you support us, but it wasn't like a welcome aboard kind of thing. But they had said, we're going to start this internal podcast for our agents to talk about the things that our agency is doing. So we went back and told her that, and she was like, well, why don't you just start your own? And I was like, oh, well. And then a couple weeks later, my husband and I were on a cruise, and we were in the sports bar, and he was watching sports, and I sat there. In about 20 minutes, I had 50 episode ideas. And since then, I have over 200. So I'm like, I've got something here. So that's kind of how it started. And it really was all of the things I wish I had known when I started my business. But it's now that I've met so many business owners through my chamber, through networking, through all of that, it's really kind of, the beginning episodes are very much focused on travel, but it's really expanding to be more just small business and like, how do we all deal with this and how do we all survive and support each other, because there's so many small businesses out there that support other small businesses. And so it's been kind of fun to have friends come on that own their businesses and have that conversation too. So it's a
Aw,
little mix of travel and business and random thoughts.
very nice. Well, and tell us the name of the podcast and where we can find and listen to you.
Yeah, it's called Life Between Flights, and you can find it on Apple and Spotify and anywhere else that you listen to podcasts.
Fantastic, fantastic. All right, best vacation destination on your bucket list. Go.
Oh, well, I think the top of my list right now is the Christmas market river cruise in Europe. That one's been on my list for a really long time. And so that's probably the number one because it's been on my list forever.
Fantastic. Well, and I saw on your website, even though your niche is the high intense itineraries, but you also had a couple of items, golf destinations and
Mhm.
Disney destinations.
Mhm.
I'm a huge pickleball player,
Yeah.
and I have seen a lot of pickleball destination vacations. So,
Hmm.
wink, wink, something
Yep.
to think about, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny in one of my networking groups, there's a couple of people that play pickleball, and I'm always like, hey, like, let's get a group going somewhere because it's huge. So many resorts in the past few and cruise ships in the past few years have renovated their tennis courts and everything for pickleball. So you can
Yeah.
go pretty much anywhere in the world now and play pickleball.
I know. For all my pickleball listeners out there, yeah,
Yep.
it's like reach out to you and get that destination booked. So, speaking of reaching out to you, share with our listeners, how do we find your travel agency?
Yeah, so you can find me at travelingnorthagency.com. That's my website, but I'm also on social media, Facebook, Instagram at Traveling North Agent. And then I also have a VIP group on Facebook. So that's for clients and friends, where I try to do like a weekly video on whatever's happening in travel, what I'm booking, deals. I can post more specific like sales and things like that in there. So yeah, I have a couple different places that people can find me. But the website's probably the most direct way because you can schedule a time with me and all of that.
Fantastic. That sounds wonderful. If you could do it all over again, would there be anything that you would change or do differently?
I wouldn't quit.
Aw,
I wouldn't have quit at 2 years. I would have
okay.
kept going.
Fantastic.
I would have just extended I would have renewed my contract, I think is the one thing I would have done differently and just kept it consistent.
Yeah. So don't quit. Keep it
Yep,
consistent. Yeah. Network.
yep.
Use your research. And yeah, great tips, great lessons. I'm excited to see how successful that you have been, woman to woman, and just seeing you raise a family and doing all the things. I respect the podcast is no joke. It's a time crunch, right? So to
Absolutely.
handle all of these things is just amazing. So congratulations and
Yeah.
keep up the good work. You're inspiring many, many people,
Thank you.
women, mothers, everybody. So great job. And I appreciate very much having you on the show today. So reach out to Traveling North Agency and get your travels booked. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Founders Hustle. I would absolutely love to know what resonated with you the most from today's guest. Go ahead and drop me a comment if you're watching this on YouTube. Also, if there's a future topic that you'd like me to touch on, go ahead and drop that in the comments as well. But no matter where you're watching or streaming your favorite shows, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on social media. Tell a friend about this. I would love the support. But in the meantime, keep living, keep growing, and keep hustling because you are meant to do great things. See you next week.